What is going on, trainers? DrumVillain here, bringing you some more Pokemon Go PvP content, and today we're talking about the Halloween Cup, specifically the Great League Halloween Cup, because there's an Ultra League version next week, which I'm a little bit more excited about, if I'm going to be honest, than this Halloween Cup, just because I always like seeing the spicy metas take place in the Ultra League as well, to mix that up a little bit. But this team's done really well for me. I jumped straight up to expert rank, jumped to like 200 points in the first few sets with this team, so I wanted to show it to you guys, give you guys a chance to try it out this week, see if we can help you guys out climbing as well. Now, this is a fairly try-hard, fairly meta team, but this Halloween Cup meta is honestly a little bit limited. It's very heavily dominated by poison types, and I've spent upon dust in the last couple of weeks. I dropped down to 8,000 Stardust last week, so I have no resources to build new things. So I just wanted to use what I had, put a team together, and it's actually worked out really well for me. So, if you're new here, hit the subscribe button. If you're not new here, but you haven't hit the subscribe button yet, join, hit the button down below, become an absolute legend today, and let's take a look at today's team. On the lead for this team, we're bringing Toxapex. Now, Toxapex is just simply the strongest rated Pokemon for this Halloween Cup. If you've got access to one, I do recommend you use it. If you come up against one, you know how intensely bulky this thing is. Even against some of its toughest counters in this meta, it can put in serious work with that brine charge move damage and just immense bulk to survive charge moves like Earth Power and Earthquake. On the say swap, we're bringing Hisuian Qwilfish, and I'm not sure why the sprite is frozen like this. It's been frozen in all my battles as well, whether I've been using it or it's been used against me, which is kind of amusing. But either way, Qwilfish makes a fantastic say swap, dark poison type, and we see similar things like Drapion, Skuntank and Alolan Muk, but this thing has access to Aqua Tail to threaten ground types that are going to counter its poison typing. It has good coverage against almost everything and good play against everything in this cup in general. A little bit squishy, but overall a very solid pick. In the back, we're bringing Mandibuzz. Mandibuzz is an absolute tank, can take hits for days. You could replace this with Umbreon, but it makes you a little bit more susceptible to picks like Escavalier. Now, the rough gist for this team is that Mandibuzz only loses to fairy types, which ideally are going to be dealt with by either Qwilfish or Toxapex if you run into them at all, but they are going to be quite rare in general. In this meta, the fairies are not particularly highly rated for this cup, just because the meta is so heavily dominated by the poison types like Qwilfish, Toxapex, and Golbat, etc. So that's the team. We're going to put this up on the left there, and we're going to put a still image of Qwilfish up just because our sprite of Qwilfish is broken for all these games and it's absolutely stationary, and definitely not because I couldn't find a good gif of Qwilfish to put on the side of the video there. You know how it is. Now let's jump into some battles and see how the team actually plays. Alright, first matchup, and on the lead we got Toxapex into Shadow Golbat. This is a very close matchup. These two are very closely ranked against each other. Really, the matchup goes to whoever's willing to commit shields. This Golbat only builds up 5 wing attacks. We know it's a Poison Fang. There's zero reason to shield that move up, and they're going to swap out into Umbreon, obviously hoping to have an advantage against our debuffed Toxapex. So we're going to throw a move, soften up a little bit, and swap into Qwilfish. We're assuming that this Umbreon being on the save swap might have Psychic rather than Last Resort to threaten a lot of poison types that are in this meta. And we're assuming we might be right because this Umbreon is opting to throw Foul Plays. If you're an Umbreon and you've got Last Resort, you want to throw Last Resort against a Hisuian Qwilfish, because if you've got Psychic or Foul Play, Qwilfish is going to be resisting both of those moves. You can see, yep, the Psychic comes through there. Doesn't do much at all. If Umbreon does have Last Resort, you can survive 2 fairly comfortably on Hisuian Qwilfish, and you're going to be able to still put some work in there as well. It's a lot closer of a matchup if they've got Last Resort, because Umbreon just has immense bulk. We're going for the farm down, we get it, we've got a lot of energy here to throw in, so we're going to go for double charge moves here against the Golbat. See if we get a shield out of them with the first move. We don't. Go straight for the second Aqua Tail, because although Dark Pulse is a much better move to throw, we assumed they might shield, and we get the shield as well as some chip damage. So overall, I think that's a pretty positive situation to come out of this in. We've got shield advantage, we've got switch advantage. We're just assuming that they might be weak to Mandibuzz in the back. We're not sure what to expect them to run, but Mandibuzz has a lot of play against a lot of things in this meta that simply aren't Charmers. So we take out the Golbat, or it survives with 1 HP, I think, actually, rather than actually being fully took out. And there's the Escavalier in the back. So if you do choose to run Umbreon instead of Mandibuzz in the back on this team, this is where you would be screwed, because Escavalier is going to annihilate Umbreon because it's weak to the counters rather than neutral. It's weak to the Mega Horn rather than neutral. Because we can probably afford to let this move go, even if it is. No, it's just an acid spray. They'd already thrown one, so we assume they're going to throw another. That's completely fine. If that had been a Mega Horn at that point, it would have taken us out. But we had a good feeling that they're just going for acid spray spam. They're probably running Drill Run as well for that poison coverage, so we weren't really scared of a Mega Horn at that point. We land the foul plays. Look how much health we've got left on Toxapex anyway. The opponent's got no chance. We take out the Golbat, and that's going to be a good game. Normally, I do love recommending Umbreon to anyone in any cup, any chance I can get, but just because I believe Escavalier is going to be so popular in this meta over the following week, I don't really think you should bring it. I think Mandibuzz is a much safer option. As everyone calls it, the flying Umbreon, but having neutral instead of being weak to the counters and the Mega Horn is going to pay off so well in so many games for you. Now in this matchup we've got a Toxapex mirror match, and I don't really know what to make of what could be in the back, because like our team, there really could be anything. We're opting for double dark in the back on our double poison, double dark team. But Toxapex is so strong in this cup, it really pairs well with almost anything. So there could be anything in the back of this team, and that could go badly. If they've got something like a Charmer in the back, it could give us a lot of hassle. But we're just going to gamble that they don't. We're not going to swap out. We're just going to play this matchup out and see what happens. We're actually going to throw the brine here and tempt them. They can survive it, and they do know they can. But we just want to see if we could tempt a shield out of them, which we don't get. They're going to take us out here, and we're just going to farm them down with Qwilfish, I believe, and get ahead on energy, because Qwilfish with energy is going to be very strong. I still can't believe that Qwilfish is just completely broken in my game. I don't know if it is for everybody else. You have to let me know if your Qwilfish sprites are currently broken, whether it's the update or whether I just need to refresh my game data. But either way, it's just amusing to see this absolutely just stationary fish just battering the crap out of these opponents. But we got a Mandibuzz mirror match going on here now. We've swapped out. We're tempting the opponent to swap because we know they still can switch if they choose to. We just wanted to see if we could pull something out of the back and see what we could do there, because Qwilfish's main threat is bulky picks. Qwilfish is fairly squishy, so if it's not got shields, it can just get outbulked by so many popular picks. Things like Mandibuzz can do very well against Hisuian Qwilfish, because even though it's dark and resisting those dark type moves, even the area laces are going to add up over time. So this Mandibuzz is going to choose to stay in against us, which I'm a little bit surprised by, and I'm very curious what they've got in the back. It turns out it's a Sableye. That explains it. That explains why they didn't want to come into this Mandibuzz, but it's not going to matter the fact that we've brought our Mandibuzz into theirs. Our Mandibuzz has still got quite a lot of energy, a reasonable amount of health. We can put some work in and then just go for the Aqua Tails on Qwilfish if we do get taken out. This isn't worth a shield. No, yeah, we're going to save the shields for Qwilfish, and we can probably just poison jab down actually at this point. We're going to go for the Aqua Tail because we've got it. We know the Sableye has a lot of residual energy, so it's going to pressure a shield out of them no matter what, which it does. That's great. Go for the poison jab down. We're just going to shield up if they throw another move, which they don't. The opponent must miss time throwing the move or something. They're going to surrender there, and that's going to be a GG to us. That's another great thing about this team, is you're always ready for a Sableye Say swap. Qwilfish and Mandibuzz are going to do very well in that matchup. Right. This is a pick I've been seeing a lot, and that is Scizor, whether it's Shadow Scizor or regular Scizor. I've seen quite a few in the last 24 hours, especially on the lead. And Scizor, it's a good pick, to be honest, especially with that bullet punch damage, which really does add up against a lot of picks. Even though Toxapex does resist it, those Night Slashers do start adding up, and with them spamming it, they get the chance for the attack buff, which can be very, very scary because Scizor's already a little bit attack weighted. But we're going to go for these Brines because Brine isn't the strongest move, but Scizor's not the bulkiest Pokemon. It's going to hit it for big damage anyway, and we make a slight mistake here in thinking that we can make it to another Brine, and we couldn't. The Scizor could have farmed us down there. They opted to throw, and that meant we could get a move through, meant that we could get to that Brine instead of being farmed down entirely. So lucky break on our part to get that Brine through, take out the Scizor and get switch advantage and shield advantage. So we're looking to be in a pretty reasonable spot here. There's an Umbreon that comes in to farm down our Toxapex, and we're hoping they don't have Last Resort. If they do, we're probably going to take one, maybe throw another charge move, throw one charge move, so we haven't thrown one yet, and then probably swap to Mandibuzz to tempt them to throw the rest of their energy, because Umbreon's main advantage here is its bulk, so we want to waste some of that energy, so we're not tempted to use our last shield just yet before we figure out what they've got in the back. And again, this Umbreon's going to choose to stay in for a little bit here, which means they might be weak to dark types in the back. I'm telling you, double dark was good in the Open Great League, and it's going to be pretty good in this meta as well, especially since all those fairy types are so scared of the heavy poison meta in this cup. So Umbreon's going to spam Last Resorts. We don't mind. We're just going to keep spamming Aerial Aces. We should outbulk and survive this matchup, even though Last Resort Umbreon does slowly win out over Mandibuzz with Snarl. And they've got, what is it? Araquanid, that's the name. I could not remember for the life of me there, the name of this Pokemon for a second. Araquanid in the back, which actually does pretty well against dark types, but doesn't do that well against flyers, like Mandibles. Again, this is another matchup in the back where Umbreon would really struggle, but Mandibles can hold its own very well. We're not too stressed about shielding that move, we're just depending on Qwilfish being our win condition. We're going to swap out, throw a Dark Pulse, make sure we definitely knock it out, and then we should be in a very comfortable position to finish off the Umbreon if we make it 2. This Aqua Tail, this is worth a shield because we can definitely throw the Aqua Tail, right? We're not going to shield. Okay, okay, sure, whatever. We can just force this through anyway. Doesn't matter. Shield this move, throw the Aerial Ace. Jobs are good, and might have been safer to shield up Qwilfish, but no worries. Get this move off. The timer's coming up. Long game. Really dragged out, but again, we've got Umbreon in here, we've got Mandibles in here, we've got Toxapex in here. It's very, very slow games with this team because of the immense bulk involved, but you are going to have that stat advantage over a lot of teams that you're going to run into, and that goes a long way overall when you're playing a lot of matches. Okay, this is where you definitely don't want to see a Sableye. You want to see it against one of your 2 Pokemon in the back, so we're going to swap straight out to our swapping Qwilfish, see what the opponent's going to choose to do. I'm going to throw a Foul Play straight away, which I'm not going to shield. I wasn't sure how hard this would hit. It does hit pretty hard, so 2 Foul Plays from a Sableye would take out Qwilfish, which is... I'd rather that Qwilfish could survive 2. It's not brilliant that it can only survive 1, but still, it's not terrible. They bring in Forretress. I'm going to go ahead and throw a Dark Pulse here for some big damage. Won't take them out by any means, but we'll do a nice big chunk. And now we know Forretress has Earthquake. We know it's going to be super effective to Toxapex, but we know that Toxapex is going to be limited in usefulness against Sableye anyway. So we're going to bring it in, we're going to absorb this charge move, expecting big damage. That's fine. And we're just going to keep putting work in here and depend on Mandibles to clean up the end of this game and just hope that they don't have a good answer for our flying Dark Boy in the back. Now this Forest is getting a lot of energy, and we try to catch what we hope is an Earthquake. We think, well, surely there's going to be an Earthquake. No, it's a Rock Tomb. We catch a Rock Tomb on a flyer, which nerfs our attack. This is absolutely devastating for us at this point. And a Skuntank comes into meters, which normally Mandibles can put a lot of work in here against this thing, even though our attack is debuffed and we're down on health thanks to that Rock Tomb, which is insane. This match is pretty much over because Mandibles is not going to have enough health to get through both the Skuntank and the Sableye, and really Toxapex doesn't have enough health left to put its own amount of work in against the Sableye. So this match is pretty much done. We're just playing it out just to see what we can do, and I was kind of still trying to figure out kind of the matchup between Mandibles and Skuntank, because honestly I haven't played it out that many times, so just feeling that out even though we're debuffed. Once the Sableye comes back into Toxapex, we're just going to surrender there. GG's to the opponent. Okay, 3-1, what have we got in matchup number 5? Umbreon on the lead. Umbreon, absolute tank and unit. Toxapex, absolute tank and unit. So it's going to be an interesting matchup to see who comes out on top. As Toxapex, you're going to be wanting to go for Sludge Wave, because the only reason you'd want to throw a Brine is really if Sludge Wave is going to be resisted, or that you just need a charge move to pressure some damage and possibly pressure a shield out of something. Really, Sludge Wave is the much superior move. And as you can see, for the amount of damage that actually does combine with the Poison Jabs, is if we land another Sludge Wave, the Umbreon will be approaching farm down range. Now we are taking an absolute barrage of foul plays here, but there's not much pressure to shield. Even if we do soft lose this matchup, we don't mind farming down with Qwilfish and having some energy to threaten whatever comes in. Now, because the Umbreon's shielded, we're going to choose to bring in Qwilfish, and that's just to see if we can bait out a hard Dark type counter in the back if there is one back there, and also because the Umbreon has a lot of room. For using that shield, it gives it a lot of room to build up excess energy and throw more charge moves to get rid of us anyway. So we figure let's get ahead of let's jump the gun, we've got a shield advantage, and let's see what we can bait out. And we bait out a Frostlass, which is not a good answer to Qwilfish in general. That Dark Pulse is going to threaten massive damage, especially because they hesitated and let us get quite a few Poison Jabs in. We're going to get to a second Dark Pulse here. Bang! Annihilate Frostlass, but all shields are down. Can we take out this Umbreon? We can. We're going to get to this Aqua Tail. I think they slightly misjudged how fast we can get to those charge moves. Umbreon's gone. We've still got a full health Mandibles as well in the back. We would need something very tough countery to actually beat us at this point, and we've got a Toxapex in the back. Qwilfish is going to put some work in here with the Dark Pulses, and once we get taken out, we assume they're going to throw a charge move here, yeah, to finish us off, and then Mandibles can just work it down with the foul plays, because Mandibles can comfortably survive, I think it's 2 Sludge Waves, and then over the long haul, it's at risk of being farmed down after taking 2 Sludge Waves, but still, that takes a long time for Toxapex to get to those moves, so there's not that much pressure. Also, my Mandibles is hatched. It's from, it's like raid IVs, you know, the minimum IVs of it are 10, which it's the best ranking for a hatched Vullaby. But if you've got a PvP IVs with much lower attack and much more bulk, you're going to be able to survive 2 sludge waves much more comfortably and not get farmed down afterwards by those poison jabs. So a solid 4-1 set, and that is going to push us up to expert rank, up to the 2750 mark, and I've been bouncing up and down between 25 and 2600 points for weeks, and I don't know why. I mean, I've been going pretty spicy in the last few cups. I know I've not been posting that much content from it, but I've been trying a lot of spice out, and it's not always been working out too well for me, and I think because this team is quite meta, it's helped me climb a little bit faster. Now, I'm not going to bore you guys talking about too many more matchups, just going to show you a couple of things that I thought were quite interesting. A few core breakers for this team, really things you don't want to see on the lead, one of which is Galvantula, which is absolutely awful to deal with because you're weak to it on the lead and to Mandibles in the back, but also you can take a discharge pretty well from this thing, as you can see. Like, so in worst case scenario, you stay in here and you take that charge move. They might try and bait it with lunge, and if you just let that move through and they do, it actually starts to put them on the back foot a little bit, so I'd recommend letting that first move through regardless. But don't get me wrong, Galvantula is still a very tough lead to deal with, and it's still not ideal at all for this team. Another core breaker on the lead is going to be Golurk. Now, I've only seen one Golurk while running this team, and I did lose to it pretty badly because Mandibles was already all spent up, and those mud slaps just absolutely smash you to pieces. You might think that Runerigus is a pretty good core breaker for this team as well, but it's not really, because Qwilfish has access to the dark moves and the dark typing, so it can't threaten you with that Shadow Ball nuke. The Sandtoms will add up over time against Qwilfish, but there's a lot of time and space for both Toxapex or Qwilfish to put work in against it if you can't get Mandibles lined up there. So I definitely wouldn't go as far as to call Runerigus a core breaker for this team. Nidoqueen on the lead's not ideal, but you swap to Qwilfish and you could probably put some serious work in on the team overall. Nothing really loses that hard to Nidoqueen. Toxapex does struggle a little bit, but also the Brine's going to threaten them for big damage. You can survive an Earth Power, which not many poison types can say. So really, I don't class Nidoqueen as that bad of a lead either. It's not ideal, but it's certainly not an instant loss like something like a Golurk would definitely be. So don't get me wrong, the team's not without its faults by any measure, but also it's very, very strong. These are very bulky picks and give you a lot of room to finesse your way around some tough matchups for sure. So let me know what you think of the team down below. Let me know if you're looking forward to the Ultra League version of Halloween Cup next week. If you enjoyed the video, drop a like, helps me out massively. Do all that good algorithm stuff, and I will catch all of you absolute legends next time.